So this one time I made these in a snowstorm. So as soon as they were done, I took them on like a platter outside and I literally just started skipping down the streets, and all the people who were shoveling and like scraping ice off their cars, I was like, a beignet for you. Would you like a beignet? And they were like literally steaming and warm, and about half the people thought I was crazy, but the half that took a bite were like, the grateful. Hello and welcome to this episode of Happy Baking. I'm going to show you a step-by-step tutorial for a very delicious recipe that is so easy to make but really feels incredibly special to serve and eat, my ricotta beignets. This recipe comes together so quickly, and it's one of my favorite things to make in the colder months when I want a sweet treat. These make an awesome dessert, but they're equally as fun for breakfast or brunch. The scariest part of making something like this for most people is the frying. So I'm gonna spend a little extra time on that so that you're pep talked and ready to go, because trust me, you're gonna wanna make this recipe. This is one of my favorite recipes from my first book, The Fearless Baker, but you can also snag the recipe in the video description below if you wanna bake along with me. Let's get baking. Okay, let's talk about making the batter. In fact, the only thing easier than making this batter is eating the finished beignets, because they are so delicious. And best of all, this recipe comes together so fast. You can see all the ingredients on the screen right now, but don't forget they're also in the video description below if you need them. First, whisk the ricotta to loosen it slightly, and then we're gonna add the eggs and the egg yolk to it. Next, we're gonna add the sugar, vanilla bean seeds, or you can use vanilla bean paste, and the orange zest, and we'll mix that all until it's well combined. Finally, we'll add the dry ingredients, the flour, baking powder, and fine sea salt, and mix those until it's all well combined. A good thing to note is that this batter can actually be covered and refrigerated up to 12 hours before you want to make it. So you can always get this ready the night before if you're wanting to make it for breakfast or brunch the next day. It'll keep covered for up to 12 hours. One of the most important parts of frying is preparing your frying station. First thing you're gonna wanna do is set up a place for the beignets to drain. I've got here a wire rack set on several layers of absorbent paper towels on a sheet tray. That way any excess oil can drip down into those paper towels, but also can drip through the wire rack grates. You'll also need something to drop the batter into the oil. I use a little cookie scoop like this. This is a 1 tablespoon size scoop, but you can also just use 2 spoons to drop the batter in. You'll also need a slotted spoon or spider to help remove the beignets from the oil. One thing that I know really scares people about frying is that you need a large amount of oil. And I sort of want to dispel that myth a little bit, because you really just need to consider what you're frying, and that'll help you determine how much oil you need and also what size of pot to use. There's a big difference between different types of frying techniques. Deep frying, where the item is fully submerged in oil, versus something like shallow frying, where the item is only partially submerged in oil, or pan frying, which uses the least amount of all three. This recipe uses deep frying, but the beignets themselves are quite small, which means we can use a smaller pot and still fry many at the same time. And a smaller pot will mean a lot less oil, even when deep frying. But remember, a larger pot will mean you'll be able to cook more beignets at once, so it will take less time in total. A smaller pot means we're gonna have to work in batches to get them all fried and done. For this recipe, I'm using a pretty standard medium pot that I use all the time in my kitchen for everything from blanching vegetables to cooking pasta, and it's got about 2 inches of a nice neutral oil like vegetable, safflower, or peanut in it. For this recipe, we want the oil to be around 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 degrees Celsius. And it's always a good idea to heat it a little hotter than you need to start, because when we add the batter to the oil, it's gonna help bring the temperature back down. So heat it at 5 to 10 degrees warmer than that 325, 160 to start. Getting the temperature right is one of the main keys to frying, and there's definitely some equipment that can help you to get it just right. But don't worry, I've got you covered even if you don't own a thermometer. If you have one, you can attach a deep fry thermometer or candy thermometer to the side of your pot. This is one of the easiest and safest ways to monitor the temperature while you're frying. If you don't have a deep fryer candy thermometer, a probe thermometer also works really well for this. If you got a standard instant read thermometer, you can still use it, but please be careful because it will involve holding it over that hot oil. If the probe bends, you can always bend it slightly to give you a little bit more leeway and keep it extra safe. If you don't have any kind of thermometer, do not worry. You can actually just test the oil using a small amount of the batter. This is actually how my grandma first taught me how to fry chicken. She would just always test the batter first with a small piece of breading. Carefully drop a small amount of batter into the oil. It may sink a little at first, but it should fairly quickly begin to sizzle and rise to the top. Then it should slowly begin to brown. If it browns immediately and does this all way too fast, let the oil cool off a bit before you start frying your beignets. If the batter doesn't sizzle, turn the heat up a little bit and retest when it's had some more time to warm up. Let's talk about frying these beautiful beignets. When the oil is hot, work in batches to drop the beignets into the pot. Drop a tablespoon size piece of dough into the oil. You can use a scoop or you can use 2 spoons. Be sure not to overcrowd the beignets, but you can make a nice even layer on the surface of the oil. Fry the beignets, turning them once or twice as they cook until they're evenly golden brown, about 3 to 4 minutes. Use a slotted spoon or spider to remove the beignets from the oil. Tap it on the edge of the pot a few times to help remove excess, then transfer the beignets to your prepared frying station to drain. While they're still warm, sift powdered sugar over the beignets, generously. Extremely generously. We really want a full, beautiful blanket of powdered sugar over these, and it sticks the best when they're warm. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode where I showed you an easy, impressive recipe, my ricotta beignets. If you make this recipe, be sure to let me know in the comments. I always love to know what you're baking and what you're loving in your kitchens right now. And don't forget to check out the entire book that this recipe is from, The Fearless Baker, available wherever books are sold. Do me a favor and please be sure to like this video and click subscribe so that you can receive alerts of all of our new episodes as they roll out. And until next time, wishing you lots of happy baking. Now the best part, I get to eat it. It's so fluffy.
Can you grab this one and then have a bite and then place it back?
No, I would never do that.
Okay, so don't do it.